Wanjala from Smartcom Technical Services Limited.
Good morning. My name is Shadrach Mutinda from Shamson Technical Solutions Limited.
George Nyawalo, Electro Ideal.
Good morning. My name is Borana Katana from the deaf community. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kamala Obadi. I'm also from the deaf community. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we done on that side? Thank you.
Yes, good morning all. My name is Alotuko Sospita from EPRA.
Good morning. My name is Joyce Munuve, EPRA Mombasa.
Morning. My name is Caroline Gatimo, EPRA Mombasa.
Good morning. My name is Vincent Kirui. I'm in EPRA Mombasa.
Morning. I'm Kidunga from Hakik Enterprises.
Kwa majina naitwa Hamid Mohamed, nafanya na mamlaka ya kudhibiti kawi na mafuta. Ni mfanyakazi ambaye niko Nyeri, lakini leo nimekuja kama mkazi wa Mombasa kusikia matokeo hapa. Asante.
Dato Eric from EPRA.
Vincent Aquino, Coast Region. I'm Dominic Langat from EPRA.
My name is Dennis Kiri from EPRA.
Yes, good morning. Mine is Jonathan Rono from EPRA Nairobi. Thank you.
Walid Aziz from EPRA.
Good morning. My name is Kiprotich B from EPRA.
Thank you for that round, and I note that we have a very rich audience today and that we have a lot of diversity. So when it comes to the point where we interrogate these regulations at plenary, then we hope that we are going to have very rich discussions. At this point, I'd like to ask then the representative of the DG to come and deliver his remarks, and then thereafter we shall proceed with the program. Daktari.
Thank you so much, Immaculate. It is good we know who is present, and I hope we are also online. So may I take this opportunity to welcome all of us who are here physically and all those who are following us online. And on behalf of the Director General of EPRA and the EPRA family, may I also take this opportunity to extend our warmest wishes to our Muslim brothers who are fasting. May Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, meet you at the point of your needs as you fast and rededicate your lives to Him. I now go to the speech of the Director General, Mr. Daniel Kipto Balgoria, who was supposed to be with us here, but has traveled outside the country on an assignment which was unavoidable. I'll go to the speech and I'll read it verbatim. To the industry stakeholders present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning once again, watu wa Mombasa. Yes, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to today's workshop. We are here to discuss critical draft regulations, which upon gazettement will apply to the generation, importation, exportation, transmission, distribution, and retail supply of electrical energy. These regulations will shape the future of our electricity sector and enhance its efficiency, reliability, and safety. Ladies and gentlemen, as the Integrated Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, part of our mandate is to develop regulatory frameworks that enhance safety, reliability, and efficiency in the services while promoting safety of consumers and protection, and consumer protection as well. As such, the authority has developed the following draft regulations, which will be subject to our discussion today. The first regulation we'll be talking about today is the draft energy, electricity reliability, quality of supply, and service regulations. The next one will be the draft energy systems operations regulations. And then the last one we'll be discussing today will be the draft energy, electricity, incident and accident reporting regulations. All these are still draft regulations, as my colleague Immaculate Mwende has said. So we will want you to give us your comments, because that is part of our regulatory process. Article 33 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 underscores the fundamental right of freedom of expression, which includes the right to seek and receive and impart information and ideas. Today's exercise is in line with the Statutory Instruments Act of 2023, which is the amendment of the Act of 2013, which mandates statutory instruments making institutions like EPRA to conduct public consultations aimed to make the regulatory process more transparent and accountable. And in this spirit, EPRA is committed to an open and inclusive consultative process. Your voices matter, and your input will be instrumental in refining these draft regulations to ensure they are comprehensive, practical, and beneficial to all the stakeholders. So your views are very important to us. We want you to help us make regulations which will serve our citizens and also our economy. Ladies and gentlemen, I will start with the draft Energy, Electricity, Incident and Accident Reporting Regulation 2025, which seeks to establish a structured framework for incident and accident reporting. These regulations, once effected, will define clear guidelines, setting timeframes for notification and submission of reports where incidents and accidents occur. The draft regulations further requires licensees to prepare for an incidents and accidents by taking up insurance cover, which will cover for liability claims. What this regulation is saying is that where incidents occur, sometimes they lead to damage to property. They could also lead to accidents which cause maybe loss of lives or loss of property. So the licensees like Kenya Power Lighting and all our practitioners will be required to take insurance covers so that when such liabilities occur, then the concerned parties may be compensated. These provisions will ensure timely interventions for those affected by the accidents or incidences. To maintain a true and updated record of accidents and incidences in the country, licensees will further be required to report any accident or incident that causes loss of life, personal injury, damages to property, or maybe to our environment within 48 hours. This mandatory reporting aims to ensure swift interventions, the facilitation of corrective measures, and strengthening the sector's overall safety framework. To facilitate this, EPRA will establish an online reporting system and provide a 24-hour incident reporting online. That online is already available, and today we'll share it with you, so that when maybe as member of the public, member of the media, or the citizen in general, you may come across an incident which may pose safety risks to our citizens, or maybe to our wildlife or to our environment, then you can report. Or maybe if an accident has occurred within where we stay, or maybe where we are operating, then we must also use that hotline to report. This will enable licensees also to have their, through their designated responsible persons as well as members of the public, to promptly report their accidents and incidences. By leveraging the technology and real-time communication channels, EPRA aims to streamline the reporting process, improve response times, and mitigate potential risks effectively. This does not remove the reporting of accident and incident to the licensees. Like if there are a problem which is in Mombasa here, the first line of reporting is Kenya Power Lighting Office. But also as EPRA, we also need to have those records as a regulator. Additionally, in the event of an incident, the responsible person must constitute a competent investigation team to conduct a thorough investigation of the occurrence and submit a detailed report outlining the findings, causes, and recommend preventive measures to EPRA within 30 days. Yeah, this is because we want to minimize these incidents and accidents. So where they occur, we need competent people to carry out investigations, and then that is shared so that, because an incident occurring today in Mombasa may have a chance of occurring again somewhere else. So when we share those experiences, then we can now minimize the occurrences somewhere else. This investigative process ensures and reliability of electricity services across Kenya. I know Kenyans have been concerned about the number of outages they experience where we work or where we live, and this is why we have, as EPRA, we have proposed these draft regulations so that we also track how are we performing as a sector, how many blackouts do we have, and which journey do we want to walk. So we'll have maybe starting points, but we are saying we know the situations in the country also, and the investment we have made in our network, we may not be performing as good as the other jurisdictions or other nations, but let's have a starting point. A key element of this regulation is the emphasis on improving supply efficiency by holding licensees accountable for their service delivery. Licensees must provide consumers with quality services as per their contractual agreements and also service charters. In instances where these service standards are not met, the regulation establishes clear provisions of penalties and compensation to affected consumers, ensuring adherence to the stipulated reliability and quality of service standards. Yes, sometimes we must bring penalties. So this regulation is also proposing penalties where, if maybe due to negligence, the licensees like Kenya Power, and I'm happy they're here, they cause maybe consumers to lose power through avoidable incidences, then we are proposing penalties. To strengthen consumer protection, retailers will be required to submit both monthly and annual reports to the authority. These reports will detail the reliability and quality of supply, as well as the quality of service. The submitted data will serve as a basis for regulatory assessment, compliance verification, and the identification of areas needing improvement, ultimately ensuring that consumers receive efficient and reliable electricity services. That's our main motive, and that's the aim as a regulator. So when you get the reports, we'll also analyze them and then come with areas of improvement. I talked about us agreeing on our baseline and where we'll be starting, then an improvement path. To promote accountability and efficiency in the electricity supply restoration, the regulation introduces clear timelines for restoring services, ensuring that consumers experience minimal disruptions and receive quality of service at all times. Firstly, if a service disconnection occurs because a consumer has violated these regulations, their supply will be restored within 24 hours once they prove compliance. That applies to maybe consumers or customers who get disconnected maybe for non-payment. We are aware that sometimes Kenya Power will come and disconnect your supply, but after you have maybe made that payment, then it takes so long. So we want to maybe agree on starting timelines where they must restore your power when you have met your side of the bargain. In the case of planned outages, supply must be reinstated within 12 hours from the time of interruption, and when supply is interrupted due to technical defects, licensees must restore services within 24 hours after the issue has been resolved and confirmatory tests have been completed. Yes, that now talks about planned outages and also maybe outages due to maybe power lines falling down. We are also proposing timelines under which the licensees, and when I'm referring to licensees here, I'm referring to Kenya Power Lighting, I'm referring to our mini-grid operators, because there are some areas where we have got mini-grid service providers, they must comply to this regulation. Ladies and gentlemen, as we work towards strengthening our national power infrastructure, I'm pleased also to highlight the second regulation, which is the Draft Energy System Operations Regulations 2025. This regulation maybe to the consumers you may feel is not involving you, but this is a regulation which now covers how electricity will be coordinated right from the generation through the transmission network until it reaches you, the consumer. So even as a consumer, it still involves you. So which aims at, this regulation aims at to ensure safe, reliable, and well-coordinated operations of the national transmission system and the interconnected transmission system. A key aspect of this regulation is the development and continuous review of the grid code. Grid code is the standards which now all the people who operate in the electricity system, that is the generators, the transmission companies. When I talk about generator, I'm talking about people like Kengen, IPPs, transmission companies. We have got Ketraco, and very soon we may have also independent operators in the transmission network. Then I'm talking about the mini grid operators. I'm talking about the Kenya Power Lighting, the distribution system. The grid code gives them standards under which they must operate. So one of the key aspects of this regulation is compliance to these standards. The regulation also requires EPRA to ensure transparency and accessibility by making the latest version of the grid code readily available to the public through the website. It's already there, can I confirm to you? If you go to our website, we'll see the Kenya National Grid Code in two versions, one for the transmission and one for the distribution. This commitment, there's a commitment also to open access, and stakeholder involvement will only be enhanced to enhance compliance and also encourage trust and collaboration in the sector. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I sincerely thank each one of you for dedicating your time to participate in this workshop. I encourage you to view this regulation not just as policies, but as vital frameworks that will drive the transformation and sustainability of our electricity market. We look forward to receiving your comments, which will help us make the drafts better. I would also like to ask you to partner with us to make these regulations known to the people around you. We can all play a part in achieving an informed energy sector. On our part as the regulator, we will continue to work together to develop policies that drive innovation, protect consumers, and promote Kenya's energy security. With these remarks, I wish you a fruitful day. Asanteni sana. Thank you. That's the message from our Director General, Mr. Daniel Kiptoba Goria, who had wished to be here but is engaged somewhere else. May we just applaud him for that message? Can we clap for him again? Yes. Thank you. As I was introduced earlier, I'm Dr. Engineer Joseph Okech. I'm the Director in charge of Electricity and Renewable Energy at EPRA. Mine is to request you that let's pay attention to our experts who will be taking us through the regulations this morning. Note your questions, and we are not closing the window for giving us your comments. As the Director General said in his remark, your views matter. That's why we appreciate you for taking the time to be here. So listen to what we are presenting to you. This draft regulation are also available on our website. Comment forms are also available on our website. So you can still go to our website, give your comments. Even on just using those papers in front of you, the writing part you have been given, you can also note your comments and questions and submit them to any of the EPRA staff who are available here or at the registration desk there. All your views will be taken care of to enhance these regulations, draft regulations, as required by the Constitution of Kenya and as required by the Statutory Instruments Act, the revised one of 2023. With those three remarks, I thank you all for listening to me and listening to the speech of the Director General. I'll now request Immaculate to come and then now bring in our experts to take us through the regulations. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Daktari, for opening the workshop and guiding us on why we are here today. Like Daktari says, we are soliciting for your views, and we aim to make these draft legislations better with your comments, with your questions, and with whatever input that you may have. So when we get into the plenary later on in the day after the presentations, we will want to have that feedback with us. I'd also like to recognize the presence of Kenya Power. I had Kenya Power during the introduction. Kenya Power is quite key. It's a quite key player in the sector, and I would wish to prepare you at this point that a lot of issues on these regulations will be raised about the distribution network. So once that time comes, then I believe and trust that we will be able to get the answers for all of them. We recognize that it's Friday, and we are in Mombasa, and Friday is a prayer day for our Muslim brothers, so we will aim to finish with the business of the day in good time so that we can give them time to pray. Without further ado, I'll ask Engineer Jonathan Rono from EPRA to come forth and take us through the draft regulation on reliability and quality supply. Jonathan. Thank you.
Yes, asante sana Madam Immaculate Mwende. Kwa majina naitwa Jonathan Rono, nafanya na Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority kwa department ama inaitwa kitengo cha electricity ya Kawi. So today I will be presenting on the regulation named reliability, quality of service, and quality of supply. Kwanza ningependa kusema amchambo mandugu zetu kutoka eneo la Pwani. Sawa, sa Kiswahili ni ngumu kidogo, so I'll switch to English. So before I go through the regulations, I would like to, through the MC, to invite our legal experts to take us through the regulation making process and to tell us whether EPRA has the mandate to make regulations. So, Bwana Kirui.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dennis Kirui. I work at EPRA under what you call CSDLS, that's the Corporate Secretarial and Directorate of Legal Services. Now, I've been entrusted to take you through the regulation making process in Kenya. And what comes to mind when you talk about the regulations? First of all, what comes to my mind is, what are regulations? The answer, simply put, is regulations are rules. They're just rules. Another thing that comes to mind is what governs this regulation making process. The first document that governs the regulation making process is the Constitution of Kenya. The second one is the Statutory Instruments Act. And the third one is the, in quotes, other relevant laws. In this case, that other relevant law is the Energy Act 2019. Now, without much ado, let me proceed. Now, what is the first step while making the regulations? First of all, you must identify a need for the regulations. There must be a need. You can't just wake up one day and say, you need a regulation on this and that. In this case, what was the need for making these regulations, the three regulations? The need arose from Section 167L of the Energy Act 2019, which provides, in summary, that the authority may recommend to the CS to make regulations prescribing the standards relating to reliability, quality of supply, and also quality of service. Now, that was the first step. We have identified the need. What happens next? The second step is you need to do the draft regulations. You have identified the need, now we have done the draft regulations. So now what do you do with these draft regulations? You subject these draft regulations to what you call RIA. It's called the Regulatory Impact Assessment So now you send these draft regulations to the stakeholders for their views and comments. So once you receive their views and comments, you draft a document called ARIS. ARIS is a regulatory impact statement. For lack of a better word, it's just a summary of the whole RIA process. Now, once you're done with incorporating the comments of the stakeholders under RIA, that document now becomes a second draft. Now we have the first draft, you've incorporated the comments by the stakeholders under RIA, now it becomes the second draft. So now what do you do with this second draft? This second draft, you publish it for public comments. If you go to our website, you're going to find the regulations therein, and there are also forms there you can fill in to give your comments. So EPRA has duly complied with that part. Now after publishing it, what do? The second step is conduct public participation. That's why we are here. This public participation, we are here to solicit for your views so that we can make the regulations better, if not already better. Now, this public participation is the salient step. It's very salient because it derives its authority from Article 10 as read with Article 118 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. If you follow news, you get to realize that a number of regulations have been nullified by courts. 99% of the regulations have been nullified by courts. Why so? Because they did not conduct public participation. So what we are doing right here is very important, and thank you for coming so that you can share your views on the said regulations. Now, once you're done with the public participation, we are going to analyze your comments, review your comments, and input your comments in the second draft of the regulations. Now, once we have input your comments now, it becomes what you call the draft final. Now we started with the first draft, you have the second draft, and now we have the draft final of the regulations. What do you do with the draft final of the regulations? We have now put comments from the stakeholders and comments from the public. What do you do with that draft final of the regulations? We prepare what you call explanatory memorandum in relation to the draft final regulations, and we forward it together with the draft final regulations, together with that RIS, the regulatory impact statement, and forward it to the CS for further processing. Now, it is with the CS. What is the next step? These regulations are forwarded to the AGs, the Office of the Attorney General. The Attorney General has a special department that deals with regulations or other legislations. So what they do, they look at these regulations, they look at the format, they look at all the clauses, they look at all the words, the statements, the punctuations, but most of all, they analyze and look at whether these regulations comply with the provisions of the Constitution and the relevant laws. Now, what happens after the AG has input their comments in the regulations, and also after they have refined the regulations? The second step is these regulations now are tabled in Parliament before the Committee on Delegated Legislation. This committee now will look at the regulations, analyze them, and they can either pass or reject. If it is passed, now these regulations are going to be gazetted in the famous Kenya Gazette. Now, once it has been gazetted, the regulations now have the legal force. That is the end of the process, but now that is not the very end. It's another step. There's going to be periodic monitoring and review of the regulations just to make sure that they remain relevant and effective. Now I've taken you through the whole steps of making the regulations. What are these principles that guide the making of the regulations? The first one is the constitutionality. The second one, transparency. The third one, public participation. The fourth one, accountability. And the third one is proportionality. They should be proportionate to the problem they aim to resolve. think I'm done with my presentation, but let me leave you with a word of the day. It says that there are two people who can damage a society. First one is the one who knows and doesn't talk. The second one is the one who knows, who doesn't know and talks. Thank you very much. Over to you, engineer.
So thank you very much, Dennis, for that presentation on the process of making regulation. I believe we are now reading from the same page. We have an understanding of what regulations are and the process of enacting those regulations. So mine is to take us through the draft regulation on reliability, quality of supply, and quality of service. So Dennis mentioned something about regulatory impact assessment, which is step 2 of regulations making process. So that we've done as a regulator, we've gone through that process. We involved stakeholders, key stakeholders within, we call them internal stakeholders, like the Kenya Power, KenGens, independent power producers, and other key stakeholders. Just a minute. So I was saying Dennis, our wakili Dennis took us the second draft, which we are now presenting here. So I'm presenting on that regulation, reliability, quality of supply and service. So feedback is there. We'll try for a minute. So before I go to the body of the regulations, the main substance in the content of the regulation, I want us to understand some key terminologies that are used in the regulations. One is, what is reliability of supply? When you say reliability, here we mean the frequency of outages or interruptions of power supply. And in another jurisdiction, for example, in another country, they're experiencing 20 outages or interruptions. So in which of these two countries can we say electricity is reliable? The one with 2 outages, isn't it? Also the issue of duration. If, for example, we lose electricity now, and it comes back after 2 hours, and in another situation it's back after 10 hours, which one is reliable? The one for 2 hours. So that is about reliability. Quality of supply has to do with now the characteristics. Volts is when we say voltage, it is the pressure or ile nguvu ya stima ya kusukuma moto ingie kwa nyumba. So normally it's 240 for a place like this, or 415. So if it comes at 260 volts, that we say it is not good quality. There's also another parameter called frequency, the number of cycles per second. Stima inaenda Kenya Power ikirudi. So it's normally 50 Hertz, 50 cycles per second. So ikienda 60, tunasema that is not good quality. And that is all about quality of supply. Quality of service has to do with commercial relationship between the utility and customers and between utilities. For example, Kenya Power and KenGen, how do they relate? So examples are issues to do with metering. If it's required that a utility like Kenya Power should read meters once every month, and they come and read after 3 months, we say their service is not good. Issues to do with billing, incorrect billing or other things, or handling complaints. So quality of supply is a commercial aspect. The first two, that is technical, and they are stipulated in the grid code. Dr. my director talked of the grid code. It's a set of rules and standards that governs what is going on in the electricity grid. Though the first two are captured in the grid code, these other ones in customer service charter, internal standard, that one I've mentioned. And then the last one is licensee. So in this regulation, when you see the word licensee or licensees, it is referring to the players in the electricity value chain. Examples are generators, we have Kengens, we have independent power producers, we have mini-grid operators, those are generators. We have transmission, where we have Ketraco and Gengen. Distribution, we have Kenya Power and mini-grid operators, among others. And there is a third player called system operator. That one, my colleague who will be coming to present on system operation regulation will tell us more about this system operator. So those ones, let's understand those terms. So what is the purpose of this regulation I'm presenting? The one on reliability, it is captured there. The purpose of the regulation is to promote the provision of reliable and quality supply of electricity and quality services offered by generators, transmitters, distributors, and retailers of electricity. And basically, this regulation is to give effect to Section 137, 141, and 166 of the Energy Act. When you read those sections of the Act, it requires that the regulator, together with the minister, makes regulation to operationalize those sections. So that is the essence of it. Specific objectives of the regulation is as provided there. One is to provide for performance standard relating to supply of electricity. That is supply. Number two is about quality of service. Number three is the reporting format. When we have licensees being required to submit some information to the regulator on a regular basis. So it is prescribing the format of the information to be provided to the regulator, among other entities. And then the other one is procedures for monitoring reliability, and the last one has to do with sanctions, penalties. You don't follow the regulation, the provisions of the regulation, there are penalties. So they are stipulated in there. We have now the regulation there, the structure of the regulations. It does 7 parts. It is divided into 7. They are called 7 parts, 24 regulations, and 8 schedules. I'll explain what regulations mean when I say 24. So part 1 of the regulation is talking about preliminaries, and it captures regulation 1 to 4. Part 2 is about reliability and quality of supply, performance standards, the technical aspects. 3 is quality of service. These are the commercial aspects. Part 4 is quality of service standards for system operator, generators, and transmission licensees. 3 is for distribution licensees. Part 5 is it is prescribing the data and reporting requirements. 6 is compliance monitoring and enforcement, and part 7, which is the last one, is transitional provisions and commencement. And then in that regulation also there are 8 schedules. Schedules are appendices to the regulation. So in the appendices there are formulas, there are forms to be filled, there are detailed procedures. Those are under schedules, some appendices. So that is the structure of the regulations. So regulation 1, when you see number 1 there, 2, is called a regulation. That's why the name of this document is called regulations with a S. It has several regulations. So regulation 1 is citation. It's just saying, restating the name of the regulation. And then number 2 is definition of terms, which have been used in the regulations, interpretation. Next. Regulation 3 is talking about the purpose of the regulations. This one I mentioned up there, why we need the regulations. And then number 4 is applications. Where, to who these regulations applies. So one is, okay, going too fast. So it applies to generators, transmitters, distributors, and what I call the licensees. Those players in the value chain, including the consumers. Next. So I'm done with the application. Let's go to the next slide. Now, regulation 5 is about guaranteed performance standards for licensees and system operator. Licensees, those are generators, transmitters, distributors, retailers, plus the system operator. My colleague will talk about the system operator. So 5 is saying all licensees and system operator must meet guaranteed performance standard in the grid code. So underline the word grid code. That document is very important. It has all the rules and standards that must be met by licensees. And also, we sometimes also as a regulator set some targets for the licensees. For example, system losses, we say this year we should not exceed this value. Issues of reliability, there are some technical parameters called, for example, SAIDI, SAIFI. We set those targets. So those are captured under Regulation 5. Under Regulation 5, again, we have some exemptions, cases where licensees are exempted from meeting those requirements. Next slide. Regulation 6 is the Customer Service Charter and Supply Contract. It is under quality of service standard for retail, distribution and retail supply licensees. So the regulation says a licensee shall develop and submit a customer service charter and supply contract to the authority. Authority is EPRA for approval at least once every 3 years. So service charter is where they say metering we do every month. When we receive a complaint from customer, we handle it within a certain timeline. And many other things. They are captured under service charter. Form of contract is, I know most of us, we have electricity and we've signed a contract with Kenya Power. It's called supply contracts. So here we are trying to standardize because we have Kenya Power and other players like mini grid operators. So we need to have a common form of contracts, similar to the supply contract, which is normally signed between customer and Kenya Power. And then also the licensees are required to display or publish and display the customer service charter in accessible places so that the customers can get to know. What do we call a right to information, which is enshrined in Article 35 of the Constitution, called access to information. So provide that information to consumers. Regulation 7 is on interruption of supply. Situations or cases where the utility can interrupt supply. One is if you fail to pay electricity bill. You've been given a notice that you should pay and you are not complying with the notice. So they are permitted to disconnect. Number 2 is defective installation. If your installation is not meeting standards and it is endangering others as well as yourself. So the utility is permitted to disconnect. And then violating the supply contract conditions, you signed a contract with the utility. For example, you said, I'll be using it for lighting and sockets within the house. Now you are using it for welding and other things. So they are permitted to disconnect. Again, there are issues to do with planned maintenance. Unapata kuna some poles imeanza kulean, and then now your utility is trying to replace the pole. So they'll inform you in advance that we want to carry out what you call planned maintenance. Normally it's 48 hours. So they are permitted to do that. The next slide. Regulation 8 is about emergency disconnection of supply. This is where now the licensee, utility is permitted to disconnect without giving you a notice. These are emergency situation. For example, if there is a problem in one of the large generators, which is supplying a lot of electricity, and with that problem, you find the grid is becomes unstable, and the utility or any other person who is responsible for that is required to save that grid. So to save the grid, they have to disconnect some customers. Because at the one particular time, what is being generated and what consumed always be equal. If there is a deviation, disparity between the two, the grid will become unstable. And when it becomes unstable, it can lead to a national blackout. So those are situations where the utility is permitted to disconnect without giving notice to consumers. Then number 9 is the connection of supply. So this is where distribution supply licensee disconnects service to customer for non-payment. The licensee shall connect the service of The customer within 24 hours. So after paying, maybe you had been given a notice and you did not comply and it was disconnected. And then now you've paid. So for how long now should you wait for the utility to restore power? So those ones are captured under that regulation 9, among other situations. Next. Regulation 10 is about disputes on electricity bill. This one is prescribing the procedure and whether to connect the customer when the dispute is being under or not. So that one is stated in Regulation 10. You see number 4 there, the customer shall pay any undefeated portion of bill. Basically, that regulation is detailing the procedure and what should be done when there is a dispute concerning electricity bill. So if our regulations are available online, you can download and be able to understand the requirement of that regulation. The next one, Regulation 11 is provision of information to consumers by licensee. I mentioned something about Article 35 of the Constitution. Legal access to information. So consumers, they have a right to be given information. So here is the regulation is saying licensees, for example, distribution should provide information to consumers on request, or even not on request, they can publish the same information for ease of access. So that is the provision of Regulation 11. The next one. Regulation 12 is handling of complaint by the distribution and supply licensee. So again, that is giving the procedure. Example is distribution or retail supply licensee develop procedures to be approved by the authority. So licensee should come up with procedures, standard operating procedures. Those procedures should be submitted to the regulator for review and approval before they are implemented. And again, whenever there is a need for review, the regulator can tell the licensee to do certain things on the procedures. And it also stipulates the communication channel or media and complaints handling timelines under that regulation. The next. Regulation 13 is quality of service standard for system operator. 12 was for distribution and retail supply licenses. Now this is where we have a system operator. And the regulation says system operators to develop and submit a service level agreement and dispatch and operation guidelines to the authority for approval within 30 days of the start of the system. Operators financially. So this is where they are required to those documents. And then the contents of the documents. For example, that SLA include outage management, generation forecasting, and others. And then Regulation 14 is about quality of service for generation and transmission licenses. 13 is for system operator. 14 is for generation and transmission licenses. So transmission and generation licenses comply with the grid code. They should also comply with power purchase agreement. You know, generators normally sign an agreement with what you call the one buying electricity from them, which is Kenya Power at the moment. So Kenya Power is buying from all the generators, then distributing to consumers. So this licensee should comply with provisions of the power purchase agreement, and also network service contracts for transmission licensees. Same for generation. They should also notify the authority of any unplanned interruption affecting major equipment or infrastructure. So transmission and generation license should notify the authority. If there is a major incident that is affecting the grid. For example, national blackout, national partial blackout in the network, they should report to the authority as soon as possible. It also stipulates penalties and sanctions in both for non-compliance for not meeting those requirements. Regulation 15. So Regulation 15 is about provision of data to the authority and system operator. So it is giving the format and manner in which information should be provided to the authority as well as the system operator. And the regulation 16 is reporting applications. That is for the system operator and distribution supply licenses. So it is reiterating what 15 is saying. 17 is monitoring of compliance and data audit by the authority. So normally when the authority issues a license, for example, to a transmission license, let's take a tracker. In that license, there are conditions to be met by the licensee. So one of them is keeping information on reliability and quality of supply. They should maintain and do statistics periodically and submit to the authority. So you find the authority periodically calls to the sites of the offices of the licensee to check whether they are doing the same, whether they are following the stipulated requirement in the license. So that is under regulation 17. 18 is offenses and penalties. This is law. Regulation is as a force of law. It's law in itself. And when you violate a law, there are sanctions. Consequences. So this is where we are saying when you do this, you go against this, it becomes an offense. And when it is an offense, there is a penalty associated with it. So under regulation 18, those ones are stipulated. It's a long list of offenses and penalties. Next one. Regulation 19 is enforcement proceedings. This is where now the regulator is dealing with non-compliance. What are the steps? Licensee has failed to meet some requirements. So the steps taken by the authority to ensure that they comply with the requirement. One, issue an order that you should comply with this. If they fail to comply, they are given a show cause letter. If they are not still complying, then they are sanctioned and penalties. So that is where we have enforcement proceedings. 20. Compensation by licensees. This is where we compensate now the consumers or the affected persons. Assuming you got electricity 260 volts and should be you're expecting with 240 volts, and you find your fridge or your TV television imeungua, then you should be compensated by the licensee. If it was caused by the licensee. So that is the essence of compensation. Ama kuna laini imeanguka kwa barabara, hapo ng'ombe yako imepigwa na stima imekufa. So all those. So that is where we have the compensation by licensees. It stipulates how you seek for compensation instances where you are not permitted. And then regulation 21 is exemptions. Where the licensee exempted from paying you. Example is that's what we call force majeure. Kumenyesha mingi kama nyingi. Kiswahili. Kumekuwa na lot of kumenyesha mingi, there is a tree imeangukia kwa laini ya stima, imeenda chini, kumekuwa na outage, ama it has caused issues in your house. So that is an act of miti imeangukia miti. So we look at all those. We assess, we see who was at fault. Then is the person affected, the victim or somebody affected. I mean, eligible for compensation or not. So that we consider. Again, for example, someone is driving on the road, alafu agonge stima, anguke chini. You know that is third party interference on the network of the license. So we look at all those conditions. So those are exemptions, penalties and compensation. And then the last one is complaint and dispute solution. This is where now the regulator is coming in, the tribunal is coming in, and the judicial system. So normally if you have an issue or a complaint, you need to lodge it with the licensee first. First instance. You don't come to the enda kwanza kwa licensee kama Kenya Power. So if you are not satisfied with the solution, then the next step ni kuja EPRA. EPRA tutafanya we assess the issue, alafu tunapenda determination. If you are not satisfied with the determination, escalate matter tribunal all the way to the Supreme Court. So that one is stipulated there. And then transitional provisions. So that one is saying that the performance tolerance requirement shall be enforced during phase 1. So ukiangalia grid code Grid code has given two phases of implementing these standards. The first phase is we allow the licensees to come up with system that will enable them to meet the performance standards. It's 9 months. Set in the grid code. There's a period of 9 months. So that 9 months will not enforce the requirements here. You keep it 9 months now. Phase 2 comes in. And that is where if you don't meet the requirements, as a licensee or the person who is supposed to meet the requirement, then the regulation applies on the penalties and other things. Then commencement, this regulation will come into operation once it has been gazetted by the minister as our legal mind here, learned friend, took us through the process of making regulation. So that is commencement. Next. So the remaining sections of the regulation is about schedules, the appendices. So first schedule, appendix 1 is form of contracts. Imepeana format. Utility. Second schedule is minimum requirement of customer service charter. What should be captured in the service charter, like metering issues, complaints, provision of information, many other requirements should be captured in the customer service charter. Third is reports required by the authority and system operator from the licensees. Fourth schedule, that is appendix 4, is reliability, quality of supply and quality of service indicators for people like Kenya Power. Kenya Power is in the house. The issue of Saidi, system losses, those performance indicators are captured there. Next. Fifth schedule is about compensation application process. That one is detailing the procedure, the process of seeking for compensation. Sixth schedule is compensation. That is where we have a formula for computing, determining your compensation, the amount of compensation you are supposed to be paid. Seventh schedule is the form you feel when you are seeking compensation. And then the last schedule is customer complaint form. Ile form utajaza when you are complaining. Hiyo itaenda kwa utility ama licensee. And that is it for the reliability and quality of supply and quality of service regulations. Thank you very much for listening to me. I believe you've gotten something from there. Thank you.
Asante engineer for that very brief and elaborate presentation. We would like so that we don't break and forget the issues we picked from this regulation. We would like to pick questions on these regulations. We would like to pick questions, comments, areas of improvements. And by show of hands, let's see from this side if you have a question. Once you rise to speak, you will tell us your name and the institution you're representing, if any. Let's have the microphone with him to start us off. Thank you, sir. You may proceed.
Thank you. My name is Omar. On Regulation 9. A consumer shall be connected within 24 hours after paying full amount. I feel the time for reconnection is too long. And I don't know how it was calculated before. Why should it be 12 hours so that the consumer can do so many things?
Thank you. We may take a next one. Any other question on this regulation? There's a hand here. Wakili.
My name is Hilary Fumba from Sifa Power Links. My question is, as EPRA, what is your take on this issue of the power distributor increasing power tariffs and inflicting large amounts of quotation, which has become a heavy burden to citizens and Kenyan economy at large? Thank you, sir. Another question we can take 4. We
can take four first, then we respond to those and come back. Thank you, sir. You may proceed.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Abos Tiberius, and I have three questions. Number one is on disconnection based on defective in installation. I believe on defective installation, someone has to take full responsibility on how the installation was done. And therefore disconnection alone does not solve the problem. Someone has to take responsibility. Who did the installation? And was the person who did the installation technically qualified to do the installation? And was the installation inspected by a technically qualified person? Number two is on the forms or rather complaining and the compensation. We have had in the past where Kenya Power passes construct high voltage transmission lines on people's land and they bring forms for these individuals to sign. They come as if these forms they are needed very quickly. They make them sign forms of consent without them knowing the pros and the cons of the high voltage transmission lines passing through their land. They are just being told passing these lines and then you'll still have your land, you'll still be able to till it, you'll be able to build on your land. But later on realizes that after the high voltage transmission lines have passed through your land, that land is no longer yours. You cannot do anything. It is actually risky for you to even go down there and start tilling your land. You cannot build in it. You cannot do anything. Any kind of development. Even selling that land becomes a problem. What regulations have been put forward to safeguard the individuals down there, especially when high voltage transmission lines are being passed through their land. Because this has been a problem, especially to our parents and grandparents who are illiterate at home there when these lines are being passed through their land. They are being told you just sign here, you'll get some compensation, 500 shillings. When a whole more than 4,500 kilovolts are being passed through their land. What sort of compensation is being given and how is it calculated? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We hear you. Take one last one, then we can respond. One last one.
Habari zenu. Kwa majina naitwa Atman Mwasifa kutoka Sifa Power. Mimi naulizia ya kwamba niko na mita kwa nyumba imeibiwa, alafu nakuja nachajiwa for replacement. Hiyo ndo naulizia.
There was a question here on the second row.
Good morning once more. Minor suggestions. I believe we can air them at this point.
Yeah, proceed.
Yes. Under Regulation 8. No, I'll start with 8. Under Regulation 8, subsection 4, Part A, I think it's a bit vague. There's need to specify the threshold, or rather the scope, as opposed to leaving it as a significant portion of its undertaking, that part. I think there's need to be specific on what exactly is the scope. And under Regulation 7, subsection 4, the notification of planned interruption in subregulation 3 shall be through short message service and print media. It's my opinion that we need to replace "and" with "or". Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think we can respond to those first. I will not speak on the suggestions for improvements, but we have a team that is seated here and we are taking those notes. So we take your suggestions, we've heard you, and we will be able to put that, for our records and consideration. I'd like to recap the questions that have been raised. First issue was Regulation 9, and there was a suggestion here to have 12 hours instead of 24 hours for reconnection. I think we've taken that and we'll be able to speak to it later on, especially when we are giving you the way forward on the regulation. The issue of inflated bills and bills that are not reflective, I think the contact from Kenya Power will be able to take that, or as may be guided by Daktari. On defective installations and disconnections, we'll be able to comment on that. The issue of way leave, I wish to note that this is an issue that has come up on the other regions that we've been to, and Daktari will be able to guide us on how to deal with that. There was a question on meters. If a meter is stolen from your house or from your establishment, and then you're charged for replacement. And then, yeah, I think those are the questions. The others are suggestions, and they said we have taken note of those suggestions, and there's a rapporteuring team in front here that is taking notes. Thank you.
Expert, Engineer Rono. Let me talk about the time of reconnection, which is being 24 hours. You know, there are some customers who are far off, most in the rural areas, and sometimes the condition may be in that short time, you talk about 12 hours because and the accessibility problems. So our only way you could see maybe is to segregate maybe the urban centers from the rural areas, but it's a Kenya Power Lighting are set by EPRA, ourselves as the regulator. So what Kenya Power Lighting charges you is something which is very much regulated, and we set it after a lot of considerations, and they cannot just wake up and change their tariffs themselves without us approving. Maybe what the consumer or the person who has raised it is talking about is connection charges. That's maybe if you apply for new connection. And we said earlier on, we do regulation when we see a need. I think currently we are not regulating what Kenya Power charges you when you apply for connection. But we have gotten a lot of complaints where maybe those quotations could be maybe sometimes high, unnecessarily high. So we look at it as a regulator, whether we need to also bring them under our regulatory ambit. Although sometimes over-regulation is not good for the sector, but we'll see that, we'll take care of that. The last one I'll talk about, then I'll allow Engineer Ron to come and talk about the last two, well leaves. Yes, truly, well leaves another concern we have, and there's already draft regulation to address well leaves. This regulation, I think, will come up with them later on for your public participation. Actually, they are being spearheaded by Ketraco, because most of the well leaves complaints we have are for those high voltage lines. So we already have the draft regulations being done to address the concerns of the public on well leaves. And also, the gentleman who raised it was very spot on, like giving the customers affected full disclosure. And that's what we stand for as EPRA. anytime you are engaging the citizens, let's have full disclosure, and that will be addressed in the draft wayleaves regulations. But the last one, before I sit down, I call Engineer Rono, is stolen meters. Kenya Power Lighting are here. Maybe I don't know that they can comment after Engineer Rono. But see, these meters, when they are put in your premises, they are part of your property also, because assuming now Kenya Power Lighting will not be in your house, that premise where meter is put 24 hours. So it depends under which condition the meter was stolen. But this one, maybe Kenya Power Lighting will talk about it. I'll call upon Engineer Rono to come and talk about the Regulation 8 and Regulation 7, and then maybe to call the representative of Kenya Power, where they can say something about the stolen meter. Then I think we now move a bit faster, go to the next regulation. Yes, but Immaculate will guide. Thank you. Asanteni sana watu wa Mombasa.
Yes, thank you, Daktari. I'll respond to the question on discontinuation based on defective installation. Basically, what the regulation says is that if someone fails to correct the defect installation, then that installation will be, supply will be disconnected. So, current practice, you find the utility Kenya Power normally issues what we call defective installation notice to the customer. So if they fail to rectify the defect, then they are disconnected. We have another regulation called Electrical Installation Work Rules, which again we are repealing very soon. We have a draft to repeal that regulation. It's called Electricity Supply and Installation Work Rules. This is where we require contractors to take responsibility together with the owners of the premises. As by the Energy Act and that draft regulation, the owners or occupiers of the premises are required to engage licensed electricians and electrical contractors to carry out installation work in their premises. It is an offense to engage someone who is not licensed. So again, for contractors, you are licensed and there are license conditions. If you install an installation and it's found to be defective, you should be held liable. So those ones, they are captured under a different regulation. But for now, in this regulation, we are saying if the installation is defective, you've been given notice to correct it, and you don't do that, then that installation will be disconnected. That is on defective installation. The other one is on Regulation 8.4, the issue of a significant portion of the undertaking. I think that one I agree with the participant who raised the question. It is something that we need to clarify, because essentially regulation should clarify issues. There should be clarity, not fake. So when we say significant portion at the moment, currently, the current practice, if it is affecting a transmission line, for example, serving a large area, or a large generator has gone down, or there's a national blackout, so they should report to the authority. So this we'll consider. We say this is a regulation that is still in draft form. My colleague MC said it's at formative stage. So we'll look at all those comments, see how we can incorporate them. There is another one on a typo, the issue of and or, that we'll look at it. Thank you very much. Kenya Power, sir.
Good morning. My name is Eric Langat, representing Kenya Power. I think the issue that has been raised is about the stolen meters. Actually, as a KPLC, we issue, or Kenya Power, we issue meters to our consumers, and it is the responsibility of the consumers to take care of the meters. And in the event that a meter is stolen, we charge the customer or the consumer for replacement of that meter, because it is an incurred cost that should be transferred to the customer. And that is why we have established the cost of the meter, the cost of replacement, which is actually the cost of that meter to be in our in our stores. So it is based on an average moving price of the meter price. I think that is all I have to say. So, and you realize that some of the things that we have is some meters move from one premise to another because people end up having those meters on illegal lines or illegally, and sometimes it is intentional, sometimes it is not intentional. So to assist us curb that illegality, that is why we are charging for that meter replacement, so that the consumers can take responsibility of taking care of that meter, so to avoid such illegalities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just to add on that one, you know, sometimes risks should be borne by those people who cause them. And that is the issue could be contentious for the time being. Allow us to look at it also as a regulator, and that's why I came back when he had answered it. If maybe a meter is stolen for something which is not like the consumer cannot be held responsible, then maybe we may relook at it. But Kenya Power is right. You know, they also buy those meters. So who takes care of that? And that's why we have talked about this. There's a regulation we'll talk about later on called accident and incident reporting, where maybe Kenya Power will be required to take insurance, and that maybe could be one of the things their insurance can cover. If the consumer is not liable, I feel it may not be very right to charge you, isn't it? Unless you are liable, because risks should be borne by those who cause them. But that's an issue we'll now go into deeply later on. Immaculate, please take over.
Thank you, Daktari, for that clarification. We can take another round of burning questions. Then we can break for tea in a few. Do we have any other questions regarding this regulation? Questions, comments for improving the regulation? Yes, sir. You can hand him over the mic.
Yes, good morning. Yeah, thank you. From the way we see is that we are the consumers, so we talk more to KPLC. We do a lot of communication to KPLC, either through verbal or through software, and we use the KPLC software self-service. I don't know if you are aware of this. KPLC self-service, where we report any failures we encounter. So on this KPLC self-service, we have a lot of issues we put, whether we have a problem with power failure or supply or any issues. We log in. So we expect when we log in, they are recorded. So we expect also after recording a follow-up. So this is where we have an issue where the follow-up is not taken seriously, which I feel, because it takes longer. Sometimes, as you say, 24 hours, it might even take 36 hours. As we say in Mombasa or in the towns, it can be restored fast, but it's not the case, because there are several logged in issues where maybe the car is one, so he has to go to Kongowea. After Kongowea, they go to Nyali. From Nyali, they come to Makupa. So it takes longer. Then they say, oh, it's not today. Sometimes it takes 3 days, 4 days, where you get your power to be restored. This is one issue where I like it to be handled by KPLC, because we only talk to them through the power self-service. So this is one, and the other thing is about when you lose a lot of your equipment because of power fluctuations. So here you are just being told, deal with the insurance. You're just taken to the insurance company, and then you are left alone. So you give up. In the end, you give up. On the way, you give up these issues. So this is what I've felt, which seriously needs to be addressed. And how is KPLC working with EPRA also is very important, because you are like on the background, but you are also like the headmaster somehow. So Engineer Timimi. So if that's possible, we would like to know how EPRA works with KPLC. If you have a very good understanding, so maybe we can really improve for the customers, and we are the ones who pay, and we are the ones who are driving the SMEs and all this, the business. That's all. Thanks. Those are the two issues.
Thank you.
I think.
We've heard you. One question, then we can break for tea. I see two at the back. We can respond to those ones, or take the comments, then we can take a tea break. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to say something about the charges on new connections.
Please tell us your name, because these comments are being recorded.
I'm Joseph Juma from Electromega Electrical Services. I just want to say something about the new connection fee that Kenya Power is charging customers. The doctor has said that currently you don't regulate that. It is my opinion that you consider regulating that, because we have seen discrepancies in this fee that they are charging. Like, for example, you apply for electricity and you are told that that transformer is overloaded, and therefore you are given a quotation that includes the purchase of a new transformer. That cost is given to the customer. And then in the neighborhood, somebody applies maybe after you. Maybe he's requiring more load than what you are applying for, and he's given a smaller quotation. It is my cry that the regulator should look into that. They should start regulating that one. The new connection charges that the Kenya Power is charging customers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We hear you. You can take the gentleman next to you. Thank you. You may proceed.
Habari zenu watu wa Mombasa pamoja na wageni wetu. Mimi kwa majina naitwa Isaac Otieno Molo. Kuna jambo nilikuwa najaribu kuuliza, hata kama ni engineer yuko hapo anasikia. Kuna mfano, mimi niko na shamba langu ambaye inapitia barabarani, na ni sehemu ndefu kidogo, inachukua kama pole kama 10 ama poles 5, na Kenya Power lazima wapitishe poles kama zile katika property yangu ambaye niko na title deeds, sio public. So poles hizi kama hizi, je, kuna agreement yoyote tunaweza tukafanya baina mimi na Kenya Power, because mimi sitaki stima, niko na generator, na Kenya Power lazima wapitishe hizi poles katika ardhi yangu. Je, kuna agreement yoyote? Because pole inaweza kuanguka katika shamba langu na nyumba iko pale pale, na kuna watoto na kuna familia yangu. Kuna njia tunaweza tuka agree na hawa Kenya Power? Hiyo ndio swali najaribu kuuliza engineer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There is a question on this side, so we'll proceed to take it.
Habari zenu tena. Kwa majina mimi naitwa Hamisi. Mimi nilikuwa naomba kuongelea kuhusu mambo na safety. There is something I wanted to talk about safety, and it is just regarding the manner in which maybe the people from the guys from IPRA are doing to us. Sisi tumekuwa tukivisitiwa na watu wa IPRA to enhance safety and everything about our jobs. But there is another issue I wanted to introduce, maybe in a sort of awareness. One, Kenya Power kumekuwa na controversy ya issues ambazo zinanitatiza, na maybe leo ningepata majibu ningesikia raha. One, tumekuwa na shida ya kwamba unaweza pata kwamba the importers wa vitu vya Kenya, the collaboration in which the importers with the electrical contractors, the Kenya Power, in concerning to the regulation kwa wateja. Kenya Power wanakuja kufunga mita kwa wateja. Inafika mahali unakuja kupata the imported goods from the suppliers, main switch imekuja na double pole fulani ambayo ni 100 amps. The Kenya Power guys wanakuja kufunga supply double ports ambazo ni 63 amps. My question is, mimi nimeenda kufanya kazi Lungalunga na Kalikoni. Huyu mtu wa Kenya Power anayefunga double port, anayefunga meter, the energy meter, yenye anaona kabisa huyu electrical contractor alifanya kazi yake aka comply with the law, yeye kwa nini anafanya makosa ya kuingiza meter au supplying moto mahali wenye tayari hizo double pole they don't relate? Double pole iko 100 amps kwa nyumba, Kenya Power anafunga meter na 63 amps double pole. The question is, leo nilikuwa naomba kujua hizi sheria zenye watu wa Kenya Power zenye zinafuata yani sheria zenye Kenya Power pia how the penalties in which they are supposed also to be directed to them. Kwa sababu zamani madam ulikuwa unaweza ona watu wa Kenya Power wanafunga mita 5 kwa sasa wanafunga zaidi ya mita labda 30 40 kwa sababu wanafika kwa site wanabwaga mita wanaenda. Je, wakati mimi nimevisitiwa na watu wa IPRA moja Kenya Power nini? That is 1. 2 point ambayo ningeomba pia watu wa IPRA mnisaidie. Mbona sisi mumekuwa mkitusaidia ku-enhance the safety na hawa Kenya Power wamewachwa wana enjoy that solidarity? Kwa sababu haiwezekani kwamba mimi peke yangu ndio nitaplay ile role ya pale chini ikiwa Kenya Power imelala. Na Kenya Power inalala vipi? Kwa nini you IPRA guys mnaweka mikutano kama hii lakini Kenya Power haina mikutano yenye inafanya na sisi licensed contractors ndio tuweze kuelimisha wale watu wako pale chini? Iliyobaki hawa Kenya Power wanaenjoy kazi zao, sisi tunasukumiwa lawama zote. The last point is, last time nili raise alarm kwamba kule vijijini kuna magongo ya stima yamelala kila mahali, na nikaomba directives from the IPRA guys. Mahali mimi natoka, kama kuna mtu umenipita kimo labda miwili, but nikijenga napata magongo ya stima yamelala kila mahali. Why don't you give directives, nyinyi watu wa IPRA, tupasue ile magongo tujengee, so that tupate msaada fulani kuliko kupata magongo yanaoza kwa street. So hiyo pia ningeomba kupata directives from the engineers. Thank you.
Thank you. We have heard those questions and concerns. We are going to provide comments or answers from perspective of the regulator. And then you can still keep questions on this regulation. Then when we open the main plenary after the other 2 presentations on the 2 regulations that are remaining, then you can also raise questions on this regulation. I'd like to recap the questions so that we are clear on what issues have been raised. The first question was an issue of the self-service platform for Kenya Power and its efficiency. The second one was on the issues of losses that are occasioned by power surges and outages. And there was an appeal there to streamline the insurance framework by KPLC. And then also there was a bid to comment on the working relationship or collaboration between EPRA and Kenya Power on the same. There was a concern on the new connection fees, and there was an appeal there to EPRA to regulate on those fees. I think we have a role here, especially when it comes to issues of tariff and what we approve to Kenya Power. The Wayleave issue keeps on lingering, and there was a question there on poles erected on private land. I think Daktari will be able to guide us on that. And then there was the gentleman here on my side that spoke about collaboration of importers and contractors, and also the efficiency of Kenya Power and meter reading. There was an appeal for KPLC to engage with contractors, especially in public sensitization forums like these ones. And then there was a question on the safety of lines in our power lines in our neighborhoods. I hope I have captured all the questions, and at this point I'd like to ask Daktari to guide us on how to respond to this. Daktari.
Thank you so much, Immaculate. Engineer Rono, who is the manager in charge of consumer installation, will respond to connecting installations without meeting requirements. That one, I think, within your purview. Then efficiency of Kenya Power lighting, meters, and meter reading. That one you comment about. Then safety of the installations within our premises. And also, I'll request you to comment about. No, I think that's okay. I'll talk about the first one, I think for my fellow colleague engineer there, KPLC online reporting platform and the inefficiencies. And we had said earlier on as EPRA, we only do regulations where we find there's need to. And I think these are some of the inefficiencies we want these new regulations to address. I know the concern about the time frames is a bit challenging, and the engineer also recognized it, because sometimes you may find even within urban areas, the number of consumers are many, and the issues could be overwhelming. I think that's why the technical experts who are drafting this made the 24 hours. Why we are putting 24 hours, that if you don't comply then, now we hold you responsible and can give penalties. We don't want maybe give so much stringent timelines that now complying becomes a problem, that now everybody else is being compensated. So I think, engineer, those your concerns are very true. And I think we are also working with Kenya Power Lighting. You talked about how do you work with Kenya Power Lighting. We are the energy sector regulator. And Kenya Power Lighting has a license from us. We are the ones who have licensed Kenya Power. We are the ones who have licensed Kengen. And all these operators within all of the supply chain from generation until even the contractors who do work in your houses. And one of the things we get from Kenya Power are records. We monitor the reliability indicators like STAIFIs, KAIDIs, and we know where we are as a country. And that's why the regulations we are proposing to you today are meant that we walk a path where we improve. We know because of the investment we have made in our distribution networks and also transmission may not allow us to meet those standards we see in other jurisdictions or other countries, but let's start as a country from where we are and see how we can improve further, going further. About damaged equipment, that's the regulation one of my colleagues, the experts here, will talk about later on. That will be covered under the accident and incident reporting. So I think when Engineer B comes, I think we just see how we have tried to address the issue of compensation in that regulation. And then if you're still not satisfied, you can give us maybe more clear now proposals. Then the last one I'll talk about, and then I'll allow Engineer Ronald to come, because I know we are standing between you and the tea and the health break. About the new connections, I think I've just been confirmed that their regulations will come up with also to present you in mid-April. Those new connections, I think we have tried. I told you we saw a gap of what Kenya Power Lighting charges new customers, new connections. I think there's a regulation maybe Engineer Ronnie will clarify, is the one in charge of that as well, but that one is already, we are already working on it. About well leaves issue, I mentioned about also the regulations which will come up with later. It's being spearheaded by Ketraco, which governs how well leaves should be acquired and all the necessary details under well leaves. So those ones for today, I maybe will not give you all the comprehensive answers, but when the regulations come, we'll interrogate them then. Engineer Ono, please. Talking about the new regulation on connections.
Yes, thank you very much once again. So I'll talk about the issue of new connection and the issue of getting a connection fee, which includes maybe a transformer, a very expensive connection fee. So we have another regulation that is still in draft. It's called Electricity Supply and Installation Work Rules. So that aspect of capital contribution, where the consumer contributes the initial capital to build the infrastructure, is addressed. The regulation says subsequent customers who will connect to that infrastructure will be required to pay a certain amount, which will be reverted to the initial person who contributed the amount. For example, if you acquired a transformer, for example, if you apply for electricity and there is no transformer in that particular area, and maybe you are able to meet the cost, the initial cost, you can contribute that cost. And Kenya Power builds the line, but subsequent customers connecting to this line should be paid. So it is in that regulation. So that regulation will take you through this process in April or May, this coming April and May, and we'll need your input so that we can enrich that regulation. So that one we saw the cap, and we really we look forward to addressing that. On the issue of metering and substandard connection by the utility, contractors are required to do good work, standard work, conduct inspection and tests, complete issue what you call a completion certificate to customer, and then that is submitted to the utility before a connection is done. But then there is that part of metering where now, after receiving completion certificates, the utility comes to the customer premises and installs the meter, and the meter tells for the electrical contractors. And also maybe an isolation point where someone was talking about 63 amperes, while inside is 60 amperes. So those are issues we are trying to address as a regulator. We are working together with the Kenya Bureau of Standards to enrich. There is a Kenyan standard called the wiring regulation, KS662. So we are working with KEPS together with other sector stakeholders like the utility to ensure that we have standards for metering, so that now once an electrical contractor has done installation to standard, the utility should also do the right thing. If it is to put 100 amperes, it would be 100 amperes, the size of cables and everything else. So that we'll have it in the standards, and that regulations I talked of, electricity supply and installation work regulation, that is governing the installation work. So that is something we know, we are aware, and normally we have our regional offices, they normally go around to check whether metering has been done well, and including the internal wiring. So that one we know, and we'll address that. So we hear you, and we will take the necessary steps. On the issue of, was there any other? I think basically that. For poles, I think Director talked about that, where utility is required to ensure that their infrastructure is maintained well. Where they have the poles, they should keep them well, not just leave them on the road. Ensure that they are maintained. The power line trace is cleared of any vegetation and everything. They have that responsibility. So I don't know, maybe Kenya Power has something to say about that, about poles and maintaining the trace?
Thank you. On the poles and trace maintenance, what I can say is we have our inspections and scheduled maintenance where we replace poles that are rotten to ensure that our network is stable and reliable, and also to avoid any accidents. However, if there are poles that probably we have not gotten to, it is also important that the consumers report to us so that we can give them priority. So please, if you have those cases, share with us, and also inform our consumers so that they can be reporting such cases for us to give them priority. We also continue to maintain our trees, that is trimming of trees, so that we avoid interference of our power lines by the trees, for purposes mainly to maintain power stability and reliability. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative from Kenya Power. There's a burning issue here about a meter, and I would like to have him raise the question directly to you. He had written it down, but I think it's good if you raise the question in the plenary. Thank you.
I'm still Hillary. Hiyo shida nimeandika hapo, kuna references mbili zimetoka kwa system, lakini hadi wa leo huyo customer bado hajakuwa attended, na hiyo poll bado imelini vile vile bado, na iko na sparks. Sasa ningependa kupata jibu saizi kutoka kwa huyu Eric Langat, aelezee kama hiyo issue anaifahamu toka wakati huo up to now.
Labda unaweza kutuambia hiyo power line iko wapi ndio aweze
iko area ya near Mbungoni Police, Mtopanga. Okay?
Sawa.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Our colleague from Kenya Power, maybe you want to comment on that? Unaweza mpatia microphone, ako nyuma yako tu.
Thank you. Maybe because we are here with him, allow me to pick it up. I might not be aware about the case, but I would say sorry it has delayed. I'll be able to pick it up and address it within the shortest time possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for that assurance. Hillary, maybe at the tea break you can have a discussion with Eric. I believe he's still around with us. Then he will be able to pick that matter. Thank you. At this point, I think we can take a tea break. It is now 11:30. And because we want to save on time as much as possible, because today is Friday, and Friday in Mombasa and in the Muslim culture is a prayer day, we do not want to stand between our brothers and their prayers and their activities for today. So we like to save on time. I would like us to take a 20-minute tea break. So we can break for tea. Tea is served at the back. We can come back at 11:50. Then we will take on the next regulations. So karibuni chai. Chai iko pale nyuma kwa room. Asante.
The Energy Regulatory Commission is now the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. EPRA is a is now the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. EPRA is a
When the customer applies for that, he's being charged for the double poles. Let's say the customer applies for even 15 meters, is going to be charged for the double poles, which are supposed to be 15. If the customer has been charged for the double poles, which are 16, you find that when they bring the meters on site, the double poles are not there. But on the new application, you are being given the double pole. When you ask the team which has brought the meters on site, you are being told that the system for meter separation and additional to issue the double poles is not working. And yet, the customer has been charged dearly the high prices for the double poles, because one double pole cost 1,221, something like that. So if you multiply that one with 21, it's almost coming to around 20,000, almost 20,000. And you find it has been included in the quotation. And the customer has paid for the double poles. But when the teams comes to the site, the customer is being told that the system to issue double poles on additional application and separation is not working. Why is it that the system, when the system is not working, the customer is being charged for something that is not going to be given? Why charge customer on something that you know you are not going to give it to the customer? Kindly consider customers, because the economy is not okay right now. The cost of supply, electricity supply, is too high. When the customer has paid for something, kindly give it to the customers. So the Kenya Power, we are asking you, please, issue the double poles to the customers on what they have paid for, not that the system is not working. If the system is not working, do not charge the customer over that, please. Another question is also, it has been talked about the rates of retrofitting, the rate of stolen meters. How comes the rate of retrofitting, it has gone up three times, even if the economy or whatever you are saying has gone up, but something cannot just come up one time. It has raised to, it has been raised 3 times the rate that it was supposed to be there. Initially it was 6,960. Now it is 23,200. Kindly please, when you want to do some such things, you need to engage maybe the contractors, electrical technicians. If you cannot be able to reach out to the customers, you can call them and clarify how you have reached at that figure. Or if not a must, you can at least make a reasonable increase on the figures, but not thrice. There's nothing which has ever come up 3 times the normal price. Kindly check on that. the double poles, and the charges. Thank you.
Thank you. I think at this point, really, Kenya Power, you will need to maybe engage your consumers better or further. That's why we are having a lot of installation bill complaints in this forum. So you may consider to maybe have clinics and just listen to these consumers, because without these consumers, really, we may not be in business. So, because as you can hear that the issues that are coming out here, issues on billing, issues on idle meters, and just customer issues. So maybe after this, Kenya Power, you could consider to have those clinics and just deal and handle these customer issues at once. Nevertheless, because this is public participation, we will still have to respond to those issues. I also have written questions here, and I will read them verbatim because our team of rapporteurs is recording this. There is an issue here that there is a lot of, I don't know how to put it, scammers. There are people who are using Kenya Power numbers to call customers and scam them. So maybe this is an issue that Kenya Power will need to look into. And the other question is, there is an issue here that Kenya Power needs to have a marketing department back in the system so that they can curb this issue of conmen. I think that is the same as what I have raised earlier. There is an issue here about the usage of solar by small consumers and big consumers. And some of these systems are hybrid, and that participant right there wants to be guided on licensing. I think Dr. will be able to assist us with this one. When one applies for electricity and one is issued with 1 meter and the rest KPLC have subcontracted a different agent to issue the meters. Is the mother meter able to sustain the load of the many users in the same house? And how is the contractor supposed to issue the license? I hope I have gotten your question correctly, sir. I see you nodding. So, just a recap. Again, the issues raised by the gentleman at the back, separation of meters and the fee charged on retrofitting. The issue of mother meter being able to sustain the load of many users. The issue of the conmen that are using Kenya Power systems and numbers to con consumers. And the issue of having a marketing department. I don't know whether this is a marketing issue or a security issue, but Daktari will be able to guide us on how these issues will be handled. Daktari.
Okay, thank you so much, Immaculate, and thank you for those concerns. I think Kenya Power Lighting you have heard, I think you need to engage your consumers more, because actually today we're engaging on very strict framework. We are talking about some regulations, but I'm seeing the issue now, we are drifting to now talking about the issues which should be handled by Kenya Power Lighting at their service desks. What I'll say, I think we are talking about KPLC, overcharging, metering issues, and conmen. I think these are, to me, are specific issues. That gentleman should see me after this. I need to, I'll get those issues clearly, take notes, and then I'll, all those people who have raised issues with Kenya Power, I'll have a session with you. Just write down your issues clearly. Before I leave Mombasa, I'll have a session with the lead manager to address them, and also with the engineer of Kenya Power who is here, we'll agree on the framework. Otherwise, allow us to go to the strict regulations. So I'm requesting, write down the more detail, and then come and see me when if you need me to work out now. Then we address the issues. Then I'll see how to pick them with the regional management of Kenya Power, either here or even with the IMD in Nairobi. Thank you.
Thank you, Daktari. I think we all agree with that guidance that we should proceed with presenting the business of the public participation exercise today. So without further ado, I'll ask Engineer Kiprotich B from EPRA to come forth and prosecute the matter on the system regulations, system operations regulations. Engineer.
Good afternoon once again. My name is Kiprotich B. I work in EPRA and a department called electricity. So the second regulation that I'm going to present is titled energy, in brackets, electricity system operation regulations. So the regulations I'm presenting is here on the screens. It's titled System Operation Regulations. So I'll just give an overview, high-level overview of the regulations. You need the lights to come on. You don't care whether the wind is blowing, whether the sun is shining, you just need your electricity. So that will be the role of the system operator, to ensure that you have electricity when you need it. Next slide. This is one example of And sijui kama tumeelewana hapo. Yes, it's just like currently we have electrical workers. For you to issue a completion certificate, you need to be licensed as an electrical worker. Then in future, if these regulations are enacted, for you to be employed to perform that key function as an operator, then you need to be licensed by EPRA. And every player in the sector has to share that information. Then more granularly, when almost at the operational hour, again, these players need to share data with the system operator about their week ahead plans on the availability of their machines, for example, if they have any scheduled maintenance, if there is a change in the maintenance. Then again, more closely, is that the users again needs to share the day ahead plans to the system operator. Essentially, this regulation is emphasizing on the information sharing and Also appreciating the fact that a system cannot be operated effectively if the system operator that the system operator will have on my system, because the key responsibility of me running the system has been given to the system operator. But again, we appreciate that the system operator may need to be performing some task real time without necessarily contacting the generator, for example. So depending on the technology and the interconnection agreement signed between the system operator and the generator, there needs to be defined the level of access that the system operator will have on the equipment of that generator. Then regulation number 17 again is an emphasis of the communications between the users. Regulation 18 is that the system operator and the users have been given a leeway to define how they intend to be communicating, for example. And once they agree on their modus operandi, then they need to document that agreement in what we are calling the memoranda of system operations. That memoranda of system operations is submitted to the authority for record keeping and also for approval. So once we have that memoranda of system operations, in case there is a dispute or a complaint between the parties, then that memoranda of system operations will be referred to in resolving that complaint or dispute. Then regulation 19 is the task of maintaining operation the grid is at risk. We said the key function of the system operator is to ensure that the grid is available full time. But there are times whereby maybe to save the bigger grid, you have to take off some people. So the system operator has been tasked that responsibility, but of course it's not an open check. They need to come up with a procedure of how they'll effect that function of demand control. Then regulation number 25 to 30 talks about real-time operations again of the system operator. The system operator, as we know so far, is that person system yesterday. Then annual report, the system operator will need to submit a report to EPRA of how they run the system in the last calendar year. Then if there is a major incident, like the same with EPRA, within 24 hours upon occurrence of that incident. Then regulation number 35 to 44 are on the general provisions. Any task to the system operator. Offenses and penalties are stipulated under regulation number 45. Most of these offenses are either to the system operator or to the key players within the regulations. And one of the offenses is failure by a user to submit the outage plan. I think we need to appreciate the fact that for a system to be operated efficiently, the system operator needs to have information about maintenance plans and so many other attributes that were defined later. So if a user or a generator does not submit the information to the system operator, then that is an offense, and the penalty is stipulated on the regulation. Then there is another offense of submitting inaccurate outage plans. Another offense is, we said the system operator is a regulated entity with a license issued by EPRA, and the license will have several conditions. So EPRA will be, when EPRA wants to investigate something, Then this regulation allows us to enter into the premises of a system operator, and if that access is denied, then the regulations recognizes that as an offense, and it stipulates a penalty on that. Then regulation number 46 is on the complaints, disputes, and appeals. It essentially says that whenever there is a complaint between a user and a system operator, then the user and the system operator will try to resolve the complaint amongst themselves. And if they cannot be able to resolve the complaint, then they may escalate that complaint to the authority. And if after determination by the authority and one of the parties feel that they are still aggrieved, then the same can be the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Engineer B. We can give him another round of applause, a proper one. Thank you. Thank you. In the past engagements, we've been asked whether EPRA is the system operator or is it Kenya Power. It appeared like it was not clear, but I hope with this presentation everything has been cleared, and that we now know the role of the system operator, and that we've also paid keen attention to what other aspects of system regulations that will come with this regulation. And as I said, it's not a regulation as yet, it's still in the stages of regulation making. So let's not have fears that we've already enacted this regulation. At this point, I would like to ask Sospita Lotuko from EPRA still to take us through the regulation on accident reporting. Then we still need to have recorded the questions or the comments on the system operations regulation. Then we'll combine the plenary with the regulation that we are presenting now on accidents. Sospita, are you ready? Thank you.
Thank you, Immaculate. I know it has been a long session. The next regulation is a brief regulation, so I'll try as much as possible to stick to the main points on these draft regulations. So my name is Lotuko Sospita. I work with EPRA as an electricity officer. So the regulations I'm going to present is cited as the Draft Energy, Electricity, Incident and Accident Reporting Regulations 2025. So basically, These regulations tries to address the issue of safety and also to come up with the reporting procedure framework for accident and accident in the electricity sector. Engineer, next slide. So, so for my colleagues who are Muslims, you are allowed to go for prayers. For the rest, we can continue. So basically, the presentation outline is outlined above. So we've got a summary of the regulations development. I'm not going. They put measures to safeguard the undertakings from unauthorized access, theft, and vandalism. So it is the responsibility of licensee as well to do that. Also, it requires the licensee to allocate resources for public education and awareness campaign. The licensee undertakings are affecting the environment by cutting trees or as well as affecting the flora or fauna, they are as well required to report to NEMA. System where in case of an accident or incident, it is reported to the authority. As well, that regulation requires the authority to have a 24-hour incident hotline line number, so that, and the number should be available 24/7. So in case of any incident, a member of the public can be able to report that incident to the authority. So Regulation 8 points on the categories of reportable incident. And within 30 days from the date of the accident, the person happens to die, so it is classified under fatal accidents. So Regulation 10 also defines what non-fatal accident is. So basically it tells that non-fatal accident, if someone is involved in electric shock that causes permanent disability or injury of any nature, so it is still classified as under non-fatal accident. Or if someone suffers burn injuries, including scalding, that covers 10% of the whole body. And with this 10%, probably we are looking at the medical report on that. And also, if those burns incident or accident and request the licensee to institute investigation on that. As well, this investigation to some of the accidents and also to make follow-ups on those accidents to establish the progress and also the response, how responsive is our licensee. That is on Regulation 13. So Regulation 14 is on records of incident and accidents. So basically, a licensee is required to maintain a register of all incidents and accidents as well, and this record should be maintained for at least 5 years. So that is under Regulation 14. Regulation 15 is on designation of a responsible person. Here, this regulation requires the licensee to have a competent person who shall be responsible for coordination and promotion of safety available for public in case, so that the public should be aware on how claims are raised. And also it requires, that Regulation 17 requires the licensee to submit an annual report to the authority on safety related liabilities and the status of closure with the insurer. At least now, as the authority will be making follow-up. Basically, this regulation gives the authority the powers to inspect the licensees in accordance with Section 11 of the Energy Act. So Regulation 19 is on offenses and penalties. So these offenses are towards the licensees, are more that authority has made, you've got right to appeal with the Energy and Petroleum Tribunal. So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Suspita. Very brief and well presented. It is now a few minutes to 1, and we'd like to get done with the business of the day before going for lunch. So very quickly, we'll get into plenary and interrogate those two regulations, the one on system operations and that one on accidents reporting. So we go straight into plenary right now. And we start from this side. Do we have any questions, any comments? Or did we follow the presentations? Thank you. I can see one hand here. Any other? Any other? Thank you. We can start with him.
Electric Enterprises Limited. On Regulation 19, I can see offenses and penalties.
Please, let me make a little bit of clarity on this. Once you speak, please tell us on which regulation you are commenting on, because the presentations
Regulation
were two.
19.
Of which regulations? Is it the accidents reporting or system operations?
Should be accident reporting.
Okay.
Offenses and penalties. Failure to report. You've said that the penalty should be 100,000. Which criteria do you use to come to a decision of making it to be 100,000 and maybe not less or more of it?
Thank you. We hear you. Any other question on the two regulations?
Hillary from SIFA Power Links. I have seen something like a doshi here. So which doshi are you speaking about here? Is this the doshi steel company or what here?
Thank you. Is it Doshi Steel or is it the Department of... okay, that's a very... On penalties, on the accidents and accidents reporting regulation, what criteria did we use to arrive at 100,000 as a fine? So Peter, maybe you can comment on that and also clarify and tell us what DOSH is all about.
Thank you for those two questions. The first one, I would like to ask, which DOSH are you familiar with? DOSH Steel. But for this case, we are not referring to that DOSH Steel. We are referring to the Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health Services. So I believe I've answered that. This other question on how did we arrive to these penalties. So I think our legal representative had taken us through our procedures for coming up with the draft regulations. Basically, there is that aspect of RIA, Regulatory Impact Assessment. So during that aspect now is when the first draft regulation which is developed internally is taken to the public, and comments are being captured further to those ones. So you find that these fines and penalties are arrived after conducting further review of those draft regulations, keeping into mind the views from the public on those the raised fines and penalties. So as my colleague had mentioned, we are also guided by the instrument acts on the same, on the amount of fines and penalties. They should not exceed a certain amount. I think my colleague Engineer Rono can clarify better on that. So I think, Engineer.
Yes, my colleague Peter mentioned something about the regulatory impact assessment. So REA, the essence of REA is to quantify or to assess the economic, environmental, and social impact of regulations. So there you look at social issues, economic in terms of, does it have any financial impact, type things. So when you are looking at, let's say, looking at the regulation, you look at the impact of the regulation. Does it have an impact on those who will be regulated by the same regulation? So when you're looking at the fines, also you look at all those aspects. Will it have a negative impact, or will it be having a positive impact on the citizenry as well as the economy? So the figures we arrived at there was based on the impact assessment. We consulted stakeholders. We also benchmarked with other jurisdictions with similar regulations. There is also this instrument, what we call Statutory Instrument Act, which guides the process of developing regulation. Our legal mind took us through the process, and they said it is governed by the, guided by the Constitution as well as that instrument, the Statutory Instrument Act. So there was an act of, which was made in 2013, Statutory Instrument Act made in 2013. Ilikuwa imeweka a threshold of fines that can be put in regulation. So the cap was at 20,000 Kenya shilling. But the same regulation has been amended. It was amended in 2024. And the cap has been increased to 1 million, up to 1 million fines on those who are being regulated. So essentially we are being guided by the law, statutory instrument, and also the interest of stakeholders and consumers, stakeholders, and investors when we are coming up with those fines. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Engineer. I hope that is clear about the fine. And as we come to almost the end of the workshop, I don't know where that screen has disappeared to, because I wanted to speak to it. We are still open to receiving comments on these regulations, the 3 of them, all the way up to the 30th of March, the end of this month. And these comments may be submitted physically to our offices, the headquarters in Nairobi. We have an office here at Kilindini Plaza. Yes, on Osia, I'm looking for that screen which gives the details for comments. Yes, we have an office here at Kilindini Plaza on 3rd floor? Second floor. You can drop memoranda there. The regulations are accessible through this link. It will take you to our website, and you'll find the regulations there for further reading and comments. So we'll take another round of comments at this point. I see one there. Any other? We can start with him, then we come to him. Any other question? And this is the last round now before we close and go to lunch, because I do not want to stand between you and lunch. So you can speak, then him, then we can close.
Yes, thank you. My name is Shadrach Mutinda. I'm speaking from Shamson Technical Solutions Limited. My question is on system operation. And this, you say that to you to be a system operator, you need to have a licensed technician or engineers. We need to know if we are going to have extra licenses apart from what we have in currently? And if yes, what are the qualification and experience for the same? Thank you.
Thank you. Please give the microphone to our Reverend.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Reverend didn't want to speak as such, but I want to commend the fact that you've attempted to answer the question that was asked by my professional colleague here concerning failure to report accident. The answer, according to me, is not sufficient. So, because if it is a fatal accident and a non-fatal accident, the magnitude of the matter differs. Say, for instance, if somebody dies or somebody loses life, then you say that failure to report that one is equivalent to 100,000. I think you need to review that and maybe to dig deep so that that question that my colleague asked can be sufficiently be answered or addressed. Thank you very much. May God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend. Any other questions? Thank you. I think we will now proceed to close plenary. But before we do that, we will respond to those two questions. There was a question on system operations, the system operations regulation and the qualifications of the engineers that work with the operator and whether they will need to be licensed afresh. And then there is also the issue of the 100,000 fine, which Reverend feels like we didn't address it satisfactorily. So I'll ask Daktari to guide us on those. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Immaculate, and thank you, my technical staff, the engineers, Engineer B, Engineer Rono, and Engineer Sospita for taking us through the regulations. Allow me, before I make the two comments on the issues we have been raised, to just stress that EPRA, we have also tried to improve our visibility, and now we are in Mombasa. We have opened Mombasa office. So to our licensees, our stakeholders, please, you can get most of our services, and very soon you'll get all of our services at the Mombasa regional office. At this juncture, I just want the staff of the Mombasa regional office to stand up so that you see them. And I don't know, the regional manager is not here with us, but somebody must be representing him to make a comment. Staff of the Mombasa regional office, EPRA, just come here. Mombasa regional office of EPRA. Yes, we also want our visibility, and I think the Director General of EPRA told me when I come here, I must also make that known, that we have a regional office here based in Mombasa. We have staff dedicated to serve you, and you can get our services there. When you visit our offices, you don't need to come all the way to Nairobi, but we also, our service, most of our services are digitized. You can get them online as well. Maybe one of you can speak. Who is speaking on behalf of RM? Okay. Okay, so.
Yes. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vincent Kirui. I'm a surveillance and enforcement officer in EPRA Coast Region. So, unfortunately, our RM was not around, but he really wished to participate. He was engaged in other official matters. So our offices is based in Kilindini Plaza, that is along Moi Avenue. I don't know how many know Kilindini Plaza. By show of hands, that's a good number. Yes, Kilindini Plaza, second floor. You'll always find us in the office. So I think that is it. So.
Okay, I think I've met most of you in the field. My name is Vincent Aquino. I'm a surveillance and enforcement officer, electricity. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Caroline Gatimu. I'm the ICT officer. Just in case you have issues with your portal, you can come to the office.
Good afternoon. Okay, my name is Joyce Monove. I am the admin. I'm sure you are familiar with that voice because I kept calling you the whole of last week to remind you of this workshop. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, our regional staff. You can take your seats. Yeah, I got to the issues which have been raised about the system operator authorization licensing. Yes, this is a very good kind of question, and why we are doing this. You know, currently we started the system when it was only Kenya Power Lighting. Myself, I worked in Kenya Power for many years, 15 years to be specific. And for you to do system operation, there's something they call authorization. So you must be authorized for several classes. Like I can't remember my classes, I left Kenya Power many years. But you see now people, so many players have come in. Like we have got Kengen, we have got the independent power producers, and the Ketraco, the system operators. So who is this who is going to authorize them? Because you see, if you are saying Kenya Power is going to authorize them, that will not maybe. Yeah, so that's why we are proposing that role to be brought to the regulator. So the regulator will be still using the same committees like the one which is in Kenya Power, and now we involve all the other players as well. So that committee is now involving other players, and then you must be given those classes after going some kind of training, and also after going some kind of assessment, the same way we used to do them. I remember when I was the emergency engineer Kenya Power, I was the chairing the one now for the regional authorization committee. So that to me is key because anything happening in the system, be it that there may be an independent power producer, can cause a blackout. Remember last time we had a blackout and the reports were saying maybe it originated from Lake Turkana wind, for example. So I think that authorization now must be brought, and we are suggesting it must be done under the armpit of the system, under the regulator, who is EPRA, who will now be coordinating everybody. So it is not only for the system operating staff only, but even other staffs who will be operating the system because the system is interconnected. I hope I'm clear on that. The issue of the magnitude of the fines, yes, these are draft regulations, and the gentleman who raised the issue and the one who stressed it maybe have a point. I don't want to say that we cannot change them. So what maybe we'll look at them again as the experts who are proposing these draft regulations, but also because you're also expert on your own rights. You are allowed to write for us, give us a memorandum of why you feel we should change them, because some of these things need to have justification. So the window is open, that's why we came to you. So if you are really convinced that we need to change it, then also you are free to write for us a technical memorandum, isn't it? Why you are convinced we need to change it, and maybe some kind of, like Engineer explained very well, we did some kind of benchmarks, both local and international, and those figures, and also we did a regulatory impact study or assessment, and that's what was guiding us. But you could have your own basis why you feel you should change them. So do to us the written memorandum, we look at it, and we respond to that. I think that's almost coming, we are coming to the end. On behalf of the Director General, EPRA, Council Daniel Balgoria, who is not really with us. Once again, I want to thank you, the people of Mombasa, for coming out in large numbers and being with us. I think if we didn't come, this our function could not have been a success. So we don't take it for granted. We appreciate you. We thank you for always being there for us, because we're also there for you. These regulations we are making are not for EPRA. They are for the sector, they are for Kenya, they are for the citizens, and they are for consumer protection. And also they have to ensure that the services you get in this sector of energy and petroleum in general meets also some benchmark standards. So thank you. I'll also take this opportunity to thank the EPRA staff, more so from the technical experts, the engineers, the commission experts like Immaculate. I know it's been a very busy week for us. We started on Monday in Nakuru, we went to Kisumu, we went to Eldoret, now we are in Mombasa, and I think on Monday we still be in Nairobi. I think we have been trying to engage our consumers and also the public on these regulations. And it's been not very easy, but we are doing it because we have to do it. Last but not least, the window is not closed. We still need your comments. Go to our website, and I think there is even a comment form on that our website. Download that form. If you have got something we need to include in this regulation, we are open until, I think, is it 30th? 30th of March, yeah, 30th of March. So we are still receiving your comments. And the way we told you that your voice matters, after getting all these comments, we'll now, that's why you see we are doing them in a hurry, some kind of, because we want to finish the process on our part before the end of the financial year, which is 30th of June. We'll now retreat as the technical experts to check at all your comments, see which part of the regulations we need to improve using those your comments, and then now we take them through the remaining regulatory process, the same way you have taken through by our legal expert who is here. So that is what all we have for you. I thank you so much and I appreciate you. May God bless you. I'll call Immaculate just to take it over from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer. I think he has made my job very easy for doing the vote of thanks and also concluding. So I'll not add further because we are already due for lunch. At this point, I want to ask Reverend to come forth and close for us and also pray for lunch. Lunch is served at the back, so you'll be able to have lunch after the prayer. And again, thank you so much for coming to be with us and have a good afternoon. Thank you. We can stand.
Thank you very much. Let us rise on our feet. Just before I pray, can you turn and greet somebody that's next to you? Tell him that is, or tell her that is, him or her that is wonderfully made and is smart. Just relax. Just relax, ladies and gentlemen. And let us now bow for a word of prayer. Father, in the mighty name of our Lord Jesus Christ, we thank you for what you've done in our midst. We thank you for our facilitators, and we thank you for the participants. We thank you for the information that we have shared. We thank you for the whole team, oh Lord. We are happy that we are leaving this place right now. And Lord, I pray that you bless each and every person. Take care of each and every person. Even as we travel back, as we go back to our offices or from the places where we came from, let your peace be upon us. Let your Holy Spirit guide us. As we undertake our jobs, Father, be with us. We are going to partake on lunch. Father, bless that food and sanctify it. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, I pray, believe. Amen. Thank you very much. And may God bless you. Tuonane tena.
Thank you.